Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John, and this video is going to be my complete Studio Canal Hammer Horror movies on Blu-ray. Now, I own all 17 of these now that's been released. Now, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to take you through the ones that were released in order. But if you don't know the Hammer Horrors that Studio Canal have released, you might want to use this video as a guide. Because if you want to collect all of these, you might not know exactly what ones are out there. So I got a bit behind in collecting these titles. And when I was collecting them, I thought, have I got all these or not? But I know now I've got all 17. I would love Studio Canal to release some more. We'll talk about that a bit later on in this video. But first, we'll start off from the first ever release that Studio Canal did. And that is 1966's Dracula, the Prince of Darkness. These movies, for me, that Studio Canal releasing are absolutely some of the best horror ever and Hammer horror you'll ever get. Now, when Studio Canal released this in the 30th of April 2012, this was the first time that Hammer had been released in Blu-ray in the UK. And I was stunned by the quality. Now, I was going to put some screenshots of these, but basically, all of these look absolutely amazing. These are incredible. Probably the best that will ever look on Blu-ray, because Studio Canal always do a great job. Will it ever come out in 4K? I really hope they do, especially the Dracula and the Frankenstein ones. I just love those ones. But there's some other ones here that was absolutely great. Now, that's me, fingers crossed. I just hope I get 4Ks out in this. But when these come out on Blu-ray, this was a revelation. And this was the first time when I saw a slipcover and I thought, I knew they were coming, they said they were going to release loads, and they have released quite a few, well, 17, but they said they were going to release at least 40. And, well, the 40 hasn't come, and I think a lot of the companies have taken over, and they've, like Indicator and Network. But as a benchmark, all of these look sensational, so I haven't put screenshots in for this, but they all look amazing. But this was the first time I saw a slipcover and I thought, I have got to get these with slipcovers on. This is one that's, I just looked at it on the shelf and I just thought, this looks immense. So that was the start of me being really into the slipcovers, especially for this range. So this is the first ever Hammer Horror to be released by Studio Canal. It is the third ever Dracula. It is the second Dracula to feature Christopher Lee. That is Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Next to be released is 1966's The Plague of the Zombies. Now, I'm going to say these are iconic, not all are, so I can sort of say I think these are all iconic rather than saying this is iconic, this is iconic. I think every movie that Studio Canal released is a double play with a Blu-ray and a DVD. But again, amazing covers, amazing slips, look great on the shelves. And this one here was a one it's a funny one because it's, as you can tell from Hammer movies, they're filming quite a few. There's a lot of 1966's ones here. They're filming quite a few at the same time, so a lot of the sets appear in different movies. And when you get a movie that was filmed back to back, more or less, you think, hang on a minute, I recognise that cloister. But this is a great movie. Now, it's funny when it says The Plague of the Zombies, there's not that many zombies in it. It's kind of a real play on words. But the picture of the zombies that I used to see in these old horror books used to freak me out no end, especially this guy here. Look quite like Evil Dead, actually, when I look at it. This was released on the 18th of June 2012. And by this point, I was keeping a good eye on releases to see what was coming out when they were coming out. And you do get in all of these, you do get some special features as well. And they do sort of tie into what this movie's like. Now, funny enough, there's a lot of Dracula films, a lot of Frankenstein films in the Hammer releases, but there's only one zombie film, which is this one. There's only one werewolf film, which is not in this set. So it's funny that they don't have many runs of things apart from Dracula and Frankenstein. So that's The Plague of the Zombies. Also released on the 18th of June 2012 is 1966's again, The Reptile. This is another one that I used to watch on the TV. Everybody who's of my age used to watch these on the TV. And I would imagine they're like me. You're like me and used to get freaked out by this. Now, these sort of creatures that I have on these videos, these movies, these are usually not in for that much screen time, but these pictures just really freak me out. I mean, look at them now, they're quite hokey, but I don't know, when I was watching them when I was 6 and 7, these were just, and the music as well, the music in Hammer movies is just like next level. It's so creepy and so scary, actually. And as a young lad, seeing these movies all in glorious colour, these ones. And that's another thing about the Blu-rays. That's another thing about a 4K. For 4K, you got one of these with HDR. These would look incredible because Hammer Horror is known for its colours. They're just so vibrant, it's unbelievable. And when we got the blue on the Blu-ray, it was a giant step up from the DVDs. And I'm hoping that if they ever come out in 4K, which they've got to when you think about it, because they're quite popular, these movies, that they would put in a lovely HDR into some of these like classics. And the sort of this another one with the 1966, all the ones from 1966, you would probably think they were shot back to back together, released as double bills, and it's amazing what they've actually put out in the same year. When most companies like struggle to put out one or two decent movies in that year, and they put out five and six. So that's the Reptile. So moving to the 22nd of October 2012, next up is The Devil Rides Out. And most of these movies either feature Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing or both. Now, what more can you ask for when you come to horror, Hammer Horror? Although there's a load of actors who pop up in here. Is it Michael Ripper? I think he pops up in practically all of them, plays bit parts, and he's just so recognizable. And there's just something about it. The fact that maybe these might have been so successful if Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee weren't in them, who knows? I mean, Hammer were firing with all cylinders. 1957's The Curse of Frankenstein started the ball rolling, and to be honest, they really kept on moving till around about 1976. They just used to churn out some of the best horror you will see in a production company. You know, forget all these like Blumhouses and all that. These ones were the original Blumhouse, if that's something you can say. So that's The Devil Rides Out. Also from the 22nd of October 2012 is 1966's Rasputin The Mad Monk. Now, this is the one I probably saw back in the day, but it's one of the ones that wasn't really that bothered about because it's not a monster movie. I was all about my monster movies back in the day, and I used to love them more than anything else. This one I probably didn't take much attention to. It's not really my thing, as it were, like a period drama about this Rasputin. But I tell you what, I'm watching it now. What a good movie this is, and obviously because of Christopher Lee being this like massive, towering Rasputin. When you're a youngster, this is not your sort of thing. But when you grow up, you can sort of more or less appreciate these sort of different Hammer horror movies. So that's Rasputin, the Mad Monk. And also from the 22nd of October 2012, it was the last one to be released in 2012. It is 1967's The Mummy Shroud. So this is one of the four Mummy movies that Hammer produced. I think this may be the second or third one. And they were all a good laugh. Christopher Lee used to be the mummy in the first one, but he's not in the. I think he sort of ditched that one after the first one, and it fell to somebody else to play. Is he called Karras? I think the fella or the mummy that's in this. I think it's the same mummy in all of these films. It's funny when you get these and you see PG on a Hammer thing, and you would probably back in the day you were sitting behind the couch looking over it and screaming at the thought of having a mummy on the screen. Can you believe it? So yeah, but these as well as these being great movies for me, they're also so nostalgic. It takes me back to when I used to watch this on the Friday or Saturday night on double bill. Used to be in a darkened room because we used to save on the lights back there, or well, the lights wouldn't be out because of the power cut because your telly wouldn't be on. But you remember that when you used to have to save electricity and you wouldn't put so much in the meter, apparently. This is long before I used to put stuff in the meter, but you know, that's a bit of a waffle, but what used to happen, can you believe it? So yeah, so The Mummy Shroud, this was the last one to be released in 2012, and you can think about it. This is one, two, three, four, five, six, released in 2012. So that makes you think for 2013, it's going to be a good year. So that's The Mummy Shroud. And what happened in 2013? Yes, only one was released. So on the 21st of October 2013 was the release of 1966's again, The Witches. This is another one that to me didn't have a really memorable cast. But I tell you what, this movie was so good. It's widely regarded as one of the worst Hammer movies. And I don't get that myself. I think it's such a good movie. The actual quality of the print on here is stunning. You would think you're watching a 4K. It's got some great. When you've got these bit parts, like people in here, you've got Michelle Detrice in here, or as Deborah's sister Lisa used to call her, Michelle Dot Rice, and she's creepy in this movie. It's just a one of these ones where this woman goes to this town, and the town's a bit odd, and she doesn't fit in, and things start to go wrong, and she realizes she's in a sort of like satanic nightmare. Just really, really good. But it was a shame because I was thinking to myself at this time, I thought I can't wait for them to release another four in this year because it seemed to release four at the same time, or three or four. And then this was the only one to come up in 2013. I thought, well, I hope that's not the end of it. But it showed a bit of a slowing down to Studio Canal's output. That's The Witches. So in 2014, nothing was released. In 2015, nothing was released. So that takes us to the 24th of October, 2016, for the release of 1966's 1 million years BC. So this is one of the last ones I need to pick up to complete this set. You know, this slip isn't easy to find, but I got mine for $7.99. So if you want to collect these all with slips, hopefully you can get them for, if you search around on eBay, you know, if you can't get them in the shop. I do urge you, if you see them in the shop, because you do still get them in the shop with the slips on, pick them up. Because if you want to collect these ones, you don't want to go to the second-hand market. You want to meet like your last port of call because you may get stitched up. But I didn't with this one. So like most 7-year-olds, anything with dinosaurs in was my jam. So that's 1 million years BC. So when that came out, you thought, I bet there's going to be loads coming out now. And of course, you had to wait another year for the next title. So on the 24th of October 2017 saw the release of 1971's Demons of the Mind. Now, I haven't watched this one yet, and I don't think I saw this one back in the day. It doesn't ring any bells. Mind you, there's a few on there that I probably watched and didn't really take in. Like I say, this is a kind of medieval one. Me and Deborah were going through a spell of watching Hammer movies, and we're sort of come to an end of whatever we're doing. Maybe the Dracula and the Frankenstein ones. We're going to branch off in other ones. We never actually did go there. So maybe what I might do is I might start watching these ones that I've put off. I'll watch them again, and then I can watch them with the Debs down the line. Now, this is probably the time when there was other companies that were talking about getting into Hammer, like Network and Indicator. And they were probably stealing some of their thunder and maybe some of their titles off them. But it was great to see them back again with Demons of the Mind, 1971's Fear in the Night. This is another one that I have seen because I remember Peter Cushing being a bad guy, which I couldn't understand when I first saw it. I thought, what? Because he always used to be like a dashing hero, and he was certainly not this in this movie. And I thought, I'm not getting this one. I don't understand that. You know, sometimes when you're young, you don't realize that some people want to play bad guys as well as good guys. It kind of throws you for a little bit. This is another one that I haven't checked out on this release. These are ones that I'm going to get back to, and it's another one that when these four came out, the ones that came out more or less together, I kind of put them off because I thought, well, they're not my go-to titles. I get them down the line. These days, if Studio Canal ever go back to releasing these ones, and actually to talk about that, I looked online to see if Studio Canal have got any plans to put more stuff out, and I could see something on there from about 2021, I think was the last thing we were talking about, to say that they were going to work in conjunction with a little bit like Network, and they're going to partner up together with Hammer, and they're going to release 200 titles. And that was something that was like talked about in 2019, 2021. Maybe the event stopped that happening, but it actually, when I saw that, because I thought maybe they're done with Studio Canal and they just put these out and that's it. But I do think from reading that I think we're all going to get something extra from Studio Canal to do with Hammer in the future. I don't know when that's going to be. There's no actual dates to be released, but I could see them. There is some other movies out there that haven't went near, so I could see them doing that. So that's Fear in the Night. Also released on the 30th of October 2017 is 1971's Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. This says it's got some great cast members in here that are in a lot of the movies there, Hammer movies. That's Andrew Keir. He's brilliant in his stuff when he's in being Quatermass and all this type of stuff. He's an amazing. Actually, Quatermass needs to come out in Blu-ray. And there's Valerie Leon as well. She's been in quite a few Hammer movies from that time. Another one that I probably saw back in the day, but I have no knowledge of now. I haven't watched this one, but I'm interested to see this one because there is a few that I need to get to. And there's a couple, I think there's one in here that I haven't seen at all. Maybe Demons in the Mind as well, I haven't seen at all. So that's Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. So rounding off 2017 on the 30th of October, saw the release of 1970's Scars of Dracula. I'm a massive fan of the Hammer, Frankenstein and Dracula movies. I think they're brilliant. And unfortunately, there's only two in this set of the Draculas, and there's only one of the Frankensteins in here, unfortunately. But this one's a funny one because Dracula here, Christopher Lee had a bit of a hump with the writers out of Hammer, and he stopped talking in the movies. That's why you see him in his first movie he talks, a lot. And then he went through a patch. Dracula, Prince of Darkness, he didn't say anything. He just points and goes "Ugh," like that. So in this one, he started to talk again, which is great to see Dracula doing that and Christopher Lee doing that. Also, he's quite good in this movie. He's getting back to his like previous sort of like royal count style, but it had a really bad cast in here. Dennis Waterman, who's great in Minder, unfortunately just doesn't work in this movie for me. And Jenny Hanley, who is more sort of she's more used to like kids TV. I just don't know. I don't know why these two they just didn't work in this movie. Now this movie could have been much better. It's a great movie actually, but I think these two people here, unfortunately, because I do rate them as actors, I just think they're just massively miscast and they just seem out of place in this movie. In fact, it kind of lets this one down. It's one of the weakest Hammer Dracula ones for that reason. So that's Scars of Dracula. So next up on the 29th of January 2018, so the release of 1970s horror of Frankenstein. Now, the series of Frankenstein, which was had Frankenstein was Dr. Frankenstein was cast as Peter Cushing, and he was absolutely brilliant. His performances in there, and the fact of his character just being awful in it, is great. One of the best things about the Frankenstein series. This one here, I think maybe Peter Cushing had says, right, I'm done with it. I'm not going to do it anymore. So they've got Ralph Bates there, who's been in quite a few of the Hammer movies again with what's she called? Kate O'Mara, who's been Doctor Who as well. I think she's been Doctor Who. She, they went and done this movie. There's Darth Vader there, there's the monster, and if I'm on, I've seen this movie, but I cannot remember a thing about it. And this is the only one that me and Deborah watched the Frankenstein, the Dracula ones. But we've never watched this one because it's like a standalone. They're taking the story and they're kind of rebooting it. I can't remember how it ends, but I wouldn't talk about the ending anyway. It'd be a spoiler. But this one is more like a comedy, I would like to believe. And it missed the vein with the people who like horror movies, Hammer horror movies. And I think that's why it was maybe put nice. And Peter Cushing was brought in to save the franchise from the maybe three movies. So yeah, it's another one. I'm dying to watch it. So I think I will be watching these rather than wait around for Deborah. But it's one that me and Deborah could watch anyway because it's a bit of a standalone movie. So that's The Horror of Frankenstein. Next on the 29th of January 2018, so the release of 1971's Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. This was the one that I really remember on the TV. It was it was quite spooky actually. And I'm sure I'm right in saying it when he takes his stuff and he turns into a woman. I think sometimes when he's sort of turning back from a woman into a man, his voice starts to change and he starts to talk with his voice coming out of her mouth. I think that's a memory that I've got. I haven't seen this movie since probably the VHS days, or maybe actually on TV when I was 6 or 7. Wow. And it used to freak me out no end. It really did. It was unbelievable to see this. I don't know why it did. It's just one of them things. I suppose when you're that young, different things, freak you out. But another one it's one of the ones now I'm glad I've collected these. I can go back and watch these ones, probably in order of release and like year they were released, and just have a good time with these. Again, this one looks absolutely sensational. One of the best ones I've seen. So that's Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. So the next one is the last movie I needed to finish off this set. And it was released on the 29th of January 2018 and is 1972's Straight Until Morning. You see, I've just picked that one up. Good price for that. It's funny because Hammer Horror, especially Studio Canal, they don't really come down in a sale. You're lucky to get them cheap. Usually around about £15. Sometimes they go at about £18, which I think is too much. But usually I pick them up around about this sort of between the £10 to £15 mark. But you never get a good sale of these ones. If they all come out with like big sale when they came out, and maybe a couple of months after they got out, you could sort of like pick them all up and scoop them all up. But it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. I don't know why. This is another one that I put it on great quality. I definitely have not seen this movie. I have no recollection about it whatsoever. But no, I don't know what the story's about. This fella here, he's been in a few of the Hammer Horror ones. I think he's been in a couple of Frankenstein ones or one Frankenstein one. I remember him having this sort of like persona of him being sort of like snooty and being very stuck up. and I think he's coming across in that one in the clip that I saw, but I have no knowledge of what this is going to be. This will be another one I'm obviously dying to watch. And yeah, so this is finishing off. This is the one that finished off my complete Hammer Horror Studio Canal collection. I've still got two to show, and that's Straight On Till Morning. Also released on the 29th of January 2018 is 1976's To the Devil, a Daughter. Now, I think I'm right in thinking that this is the last ever Hammer horror movie that was made. And I'm talking about the classic Hammer. I know they make some now, they put them out every now and again. This one again is another one I haven't seen. Well, I would have seen it, but I haven't seen it with this release. It's, it's. I think you could tell. Well, I'm saying I think I could tell. I haven't yet to watch this one. I think you could see that Hammer were kind of losing a little bit of their pathway when they were coming to movies. They were a little bit hit and miss, not hit and miss, but they didn't have a sort of identity was starting to slip. Maybe they were trying to struggle about what to do. I think they could have maybe rebooted themselves a little bit, but I think they probably hit financial difficulties, so they couldn't continue, I think. So they had to go into sort of a kind of on ice for quite a lot of years. But I'm so glad to see that actually they're still going, they're still making movies every now and again. And the fact that they're putting all of these absolutely incredible movies out in the best of conditions until a 4K comes on. I don't know if all of these will get released on 4K. I would love to, anyone that come in 4K I would buy, because for me, Hammer Horror would really suit 4K. Yes, a low budget, but they do look spectacular. And the sets as well, even though they're cheap, they do look like the sort of really big budget sets. It's great how they did it. So that's To the Devil, a Daughter. So the last one till now the Studio Canal have released was on the 12th of August 2019, and it is 1971's Lust for a Vampire. This is the one that I do really remember. Anything with vampires, obviously I'm there. And Hammer just always have this. It's the best thing about Hammer is you can always tell when you're watching a Hammer movie. They just look the same. They've got such. I was talking about identities before, but all the movies looked like a Hammer movie. Even though they lost away a little bit on subject matter, they were just used to produce these high quality movies that used to look sensational. So after this one, it's now been 4 years since Studio Canal have made anything to do with Hammer Horror, unfortunately. But after reading them couple of things online, I'm thinking maybe there might be a chance where they come like back and they put some more stuff out of this. Now it would be a travesty if they changed the way they're doing it. They've got to make these ones the same because they look great together on the shelves. And that's one of the best things about this set. You can just look at it and you can see it a mile off. And I think the great thing about it is they've kept this series so consistent to look at. The way that they've presented them, they've got the special features are all sort of like similar, which I like. In the presentation, is this a double bill? Yeah, double bill. So yes, they were double bill all the way through. And I don't know if they'll continue that way because it doesn't seem like double bill's a thing anymore, but you never know. Thanks for watching. You take care, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers.